Mr. Trutna, Mr. Trutna, coming to you live from room D33, Clovis High School. This is Unit 5, Math 2, Worksheet 5. We're going to go over the mid-unit review, okay? And then the problems that were assigned to you, we are going to go over numbers 1 through 11, and then we're going to go over numbers 13 through 24. Okay, so 1 through 6, solve for the variables. We're going to give the best name for each of the following based upon the given information and calculations. So the names of the quadrilaterals are quadrilateral, parallelogram, rectangle, rhombus, square, trapezoid, and isosceles trapezoid. Okay, so number 1. So I would say when you're doing these problems, especially the first 6 problems, is you probably want to name the shape first based upon the information that you have. So you've noticed in number 1, we have the top side is marked as parallel to the bottom side. We have the left side with these double arrows here marked as parallel to the right side because of double arrows. So we have 1 pair, 2 pairs of parallel sides. Okay, that would make this shape a parallelogram. So number 1, the shape is going to be a parallelogram. Okay, we can't say it's a rhombus. I noticed that some students were saying this was a rhombus, and we can't say it's a rhombus because we don't know if all the sides are equal to each other. So that's the best we can do. Okay, so now we're going to use that fact that it's a parallelogram to find the value of x. Okay, so what you should notice is that we have this angle right here, which is marked as 5x. We have this angle right here, which is marked as 70. Okay, now those 2 angles are not going to be equal in a parallelogram, but those 2 angles are called consecutive angles. So that means that consecutive angles are supplementary. So to solve for x, we would write the equation, create the equation, 5x plus 70 is equal to 180. Okay, consecutive angles in a parallelogram always are supplementary, which means they add up to 180. So then we're going to use algebra to solve this equation. So we're going to get 5x is equal to 110 after subtracting 70. Then we're going to divide by 5, so x is going to be 22. Now to find y, what we do is that you notice that this angle right here, which is represented by 4y, is opposite of that angle, which is 70. And remember, opposite angles in a parallelogram are congruent to each other. So to solve for y, we would create the equation 4y is equal to 70. Then we would divide both sides by 4, and y is going to be 17.5. So there's the answers to number 1. Number 2, okay, so first of all, let's determine what type of shape it is. So let's look at what we know for sure. So you notice that all 4 sides are marked as congruent to each other. So it has 4 equal sides, so that means it has to be either a rhombus or a square. But then we have this 90-degree angle here, and remember, out of a rhombus or a square, that means the only one that has 90 degrees is going to be a square. So in number 2, this shape is going to be a square. Okay? And then we're going to use the fact that this is a square to find x and find y. Alright? So how do we find x? Well, in x, you just have to know the rule about diagonals. So here we have a diagonal, and the other diagonal would be this right here. And the rule is the 2 diagonals are perpendicular to each other. So what that means is right where the 2 diagonals in a square intersect, you get 90-degree angles. So all of these angles here are 90 degrees right in the middle of a square. So x is going to be 90 degrees. Okay. Now to find y, what happens is, so remember, in a square, all the angles are 90 degrees. So that means this angle is 90 degrees. And then the diagonal in a square bisects the 90-degree angle. So it bisects it into 2 equal angles, so those have to be 45 and 45. Therefore, y is 45 degrees. Okay? Number 3. So let's look at number 3. So first of all, let's name the shape. So what do we know about the shape? Well, we know that it has a 90-degree angle in it. So the only shapes that have 90-degree angles in them are rectangles or squares. Okay, but this can't be a square because if you notice, all the four sides aren't the same. So number 3, it would be appropriate to say that this shape is a rectangle. Okay, so first of all, so let's find the value of x. Okay, so in order to find the value of x, what we're going to do is I'm going to focus on this triangle right here. And the reason why I'm going to focus on that triangle is because x is in that triangle, and if you recall, these two pieces of the rectangle's diagonals are equal. As a matter of fact, all the pieces of a rectangle's diagonal are equal, but in particular, what that makes this triangle right here is an isosceles triangle, which means that the two equal sides are called the legs, and then the non-equal side is called the base, and then remember the base angles that run along the base are equal. So that means that angle over there has to be 37. Now to find x, all we would do is we would add up 37 and 37. That'd be 74, and then we would use the fact that the three angles in a triangle add up to 180. So if I take away 74 from 180, which is 106, that's your value for x. 106 degrees. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're now going to find y, and if you notice, y is up here and y is a part of this triangle here. So in order to find y, well, that's pretty easy. The triangle up here is exactly the same as the triangle down here. So that means if I took the triangle up here and flipped it over, y would correspond with 37. So we don't have to do any math, we just would know that y is 37 degrees. Okay, now to find z, what we would do is we would write an equation. So this bottom side is 8z minus 7, and it's got 2 marks, and the top side, which has 2 marks, that indicates that these two sides are equal. So the equation that you would use to solve for z would be 8z minus 7 is equal to the top side, which is 3z plus 3. So we would subtract 3z from both sides of the equation. That would make the equation 5z minus 7 is equal to 3. We would add 7 to both sides. That would make the new equation 5z is equal to 10. And then we would divide both sides by 5. Therefore, z is going to be equal to 2. Okay, so that's how you would do number 3. Moving on to number 4. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to determine what type of shape it is. So notice we have a 4-sided shape, okay, and all the sides are equal to each other, but none of the angles are 90-degree angles. So that means